Hi! If you're here watching this video, you're probably wondering if psychology is the right major for you. And I've been there. When I applied to schools, I applied as a bunch of different majors because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But right now I'm a college student and I'm really passionate about psychology and I hope to pursue it in the future. So I just wanted to give a few tips and advice about how you might know if psychology is the right major for you. And I hope you can take something away from it. So the first thing that might make you think about pursuing a psychology major is that you're someone who's curious about yourself. And by that, I just mean you're somebody who is introspective. You think about your own thoughts, you think about your own behaviors and patterns, and you've always just maybe been this way. Maybe you daydream a lot, maybe you like to journal. But I think that if that's the case, psychology might be really interesting to you. And even if your exposure has been a show like Criminal Minds, or if you read a book or watched a movie that kind of interested you and it was about psychology, I think that's a great starting point. Why I think that a psychology major would fit you well if you're someone who's introspective is because everything you learn in psychology is applicable to yourself or others in your life most of the time. One example could be last semester I took a class called Educational Psychology, and in this class we learned about how psychology is applied in school and classrooms. And I think that in this class, even though I'm not probably going to be a school psychologist, I think it's super helpful because I learned a lot about how to foster a growth mindset, what are learning attributions that I make towards my own learning that could be hindering me or helping me improve. And I think these types of things are really helpful. The second sign that you might want to pursue a psychology major is that you're a really good listener and you're always there to help your friends and listen to them. And I say this not because all psychology majors go on to be therapists. I just say this because a lot of the content that you learn in psychology is like slightly intuitive, since it might be talking about like emotions or thoughts, and those are things that we all experience. But if you're somebody who has the patience to listen to other people and get their perspectives, I think a psychology major could benefit you and it could really interest you. While where other people say like, oh, that's so obvious, or like, why would I need to know about that? You might find it like really fascinating. And like obviously the way to figure out if this is something that you would be interested in is just to take an intro level psych class and see if that is something that you like. A third thing that I would say you could consider if you want to do psychology is whether you like sciences more or you like humanities more. Psychology does have a lot of science requirements, such as there'll be like biology requirements, and then usually there's also like math requirements. And I say this because in a psychology major you'll have science requirements since psychology is a science, but at the same time it's centered around human experiences and explanations for these experiences. So I think that if you're somebody who has an interest in science but also like an interest in like humanities and writing, I think psychology will give you a really well-rounded education. So for me, during exam seasons in my psychology classes, I'll have like some exams and some papers and projects, and I think that gives a really good balance so that if I were like a chemistry major, I'd probably be taking tests all the time, versus if I was an English major, I'd be writing papers all the time. I've taken really cool classes like Harry Potter and Child Development, and that was like a very writing-based class. I've taken other classes such as cognitive psychology that was very test-based. So if you like sciences but you also kind of like humanities and you like writing, I think that psychology can offer you the education that you want. Even if you're not a science person, I think that if you really are passionate about psychology, you should still pursue it, since in your future careers there's a lot of different applications. Some of them are more like educational based, maybe it's like counseling, while others can be more on the science side, such as if you're someone who's building like computational models to model behaviors. And so there's every career out there that can be applied with psychology, and I think that's something that's really valuable. The fourth and last reason I think that psychology is a major that you can consider is that you don't know what you want to do with your life. And I get that. We're all there. Psychology is the most popular major in college, and it's because it's so versatile. It's because we're all interested in learning about ourselves, and I think that's a good thing. So if you don't know what you want to do, I think that's a stereotype that fits a lot of psychology students, and that's okay. We're all in it together and we're all figuring it out. Something really powerful that you should consider is that if you're majoring in psychology, you can pair your major in psychology with something else to create like an interdisciplinary major for yourself depending on what your interests. So for example, if you're doing psychology but you're also really interested in computers, if you majored in those two things, you could look into doing like AI in the future, or like user experience designs, where you kind of think about a user's needs before actually implementing the technology, since you have like a human-centered knowledge base and you also know how to implement technology. Or if you're really interested in like criminal justice and you're also interested in psychology, you could pursue forensic psychology. And since these are not usually majors offered at your school, you could take like a criminal justice class and like a psychology major, or a sociology major and a psychology major, and combine them to get the education that you want and get the best background for the type of career you want to pursue. If you're here at the end of this video, I want to say thank you for hearing me out. Remember that choosing a major is not a binding decision, and that a lot of people go on to do things that are not related to their major at all, and that's okay. If you know that you're gonna have a blast doing psychology, I think that you could totally consider pursuing it and pursuing something else as well. But if any of these points resonated with you, don't be afraid to just go ahead and sign up for that intro level psych class, and see if it's something that you really do want to pursue.